Hello, dear friends. I don't like to be an Ashi or prophet of doom, but the rumors and predictions circulating in the networks are so persistent that I have no choice but to echo them without taking sides. Don't forget that the Great Tribulation comes before deliverance, although I think we have already been made to suffer too much with mediocre results. Opinion piece. Doomsday predictions. Are they overturning the table? The future is an unknown. Catastrophism in the networks. We are in biblical times. By the end of September, no one knows how this will end. The Chinese will make their move. The Davos Forum pulls the strings. Let's see the endgame. The West against the rest of the world. They will try to snake in a digital currency. Possession of gold could be outlawed. Silver would be more practical than gold. A revolution could break out. Experts predict a big crash. No one can control this level of madness. We would go back to living like our grandparents. The name of the game is Survive and Rise. Davos Forum, Russia and China are fighting each other. The Black Raven is a symbol of catastrophism. Resistance to divine love produces physical fatigue. Let's start. The next weeks and months could be a dramatic time for the world, according to Michael Jaco, a former Navy SEAL Team 6 operator and CIA security agent with expert intuitive skills developed over 35 years of extensive combat experience. Another warning from Godlike Productions says that the Earth's magnetic field could collapse between September and November 2023. Many scientists are aware of this risk. If this happens, the troposphere would mix with super cold air from the upper mesosphere with climate chaos and a collapse of the biosphere. But don't forget that there are only a handful of intelligent people who would be told when the transformation would actually occur, and they are not talking. The date would be decided by the quantum computer and would be based on security concerns. Any date given by intelligence gurus or others would be pure speculation. Definition. To forecast is to predict something future from indications. A prognosis is a physician's judgment of the changes that may occur during the course of an illness and of its duration and termination by the symptoms that have preceded or accompanied it. A doomsayer is someone who tends to predict or anticipate misfortune. This is why it is associated with pessimism. Catastrophism is a theory according to which major geological and biological changes were due to natural catastrophes. The Black Raven is a symbol of catastrophism and is also a narrative poem written by Edgar Allan Poe, first published in 1845. The text recounts the mysterious visit of a talking raven to the home of a grieving lover and the later slow descent into madness. The lover, who has often been identified as a student, mourns the loss of his beloved Leonora. The Black Raven, perched on a bust of Pallas Athena, seems to whip up his suffering with the constant repetition of the words "nevermore." What is this grim, ungainly, ghastly, haggard, ominous bed of old? He wrote. In Norse mythology, Odin possessed two ravens named Hugin and Manim, who represented thought and memory. In Ovid's Metamorphosis, a raven also starts out white before Apollo punished him by turning him black for sending a message of a lover's infidelity. The idea of a messenger raven in Poe's tale may have been inspired by these stories. Catastrophism. Another soothsayer says that everything would collapse at the end of September 2022, according to anonymous coward. He believes that in September it could be known that a world conflict has officially begun. Once the masses have realized this, the bubble would finally burst. The housing market would plummet by 25%. The housing bubble would collapse. Rates would skyrocket, and there would be a shortage of raw materials. The Chinese would make their move the moment we cross into the autumn, and it will be obvious that everyone what is happening. Hyperinflation would skyrocket. Petrol and diesel would be rationed. So would most foodstuffs. We would go back to living as our grandparents and parents did during the Second World War. The government would use the chaos of this situation to try to advance its restart agenda. The shutdowns would have many benefits for the political class, as they would force postal voting, discourage people from using petrol and diesel, keep people locked in and segregated, making them less likely to organize and rationing easier. But no one has any idea how this will turn out in the end. Not Klaus, not Biden, not Trump. No one can control this level of madness. It is possible that the revolution will break out even before we go to war. It is possible that they will use the war to implement the Great Reset. How the future would unfold after war and hyperinflation is an unknown. Uranus in Gemini is the cycle these people used for their reset. The name of the game is to survive to the other side with private assets to your name. The name of the game is to make it to the other side alive, with some kind of wealth in hand. They are flipping the table, and they don't care how much it hurts you or me. They are unable to admit what they have done to the monetary system and pension funds, because they fear people will rebel. They have no choice but to overturn the table and start a global conflict. Anonymous coward doesn't advise buying gold, because they could make it illegal to own it, and even if they don't, it would be worthless in small transactions. If you have some gold, keep it, but future small purchases should only be of silver, in his view. In the midst of this hyperinflation, they would offer their central bank digital currency as a solution. We might have no choice but to use them. But once all the money was put on the net, silver would be the new underground currency. Once digital currencies were in place, metals would finally have their day. The Davos Forum would be pulling the strings in this nightmare. Western governments are controlled by this organization, and their solution means more power for the political class. They cannot win this window, or they would win the next 84-year cycle. This once in history will write it's about to begin. Be prepared, for you have been warned. Reset news. Summer is winding down, and the pundits are predicting a big fall, writes Stanbury Research. Steve Bannon on the collapse of civilization, in quotes, there are decisions being made by people in power that are not just destructive, they are so destructive that you are not going to be able to change this. According to Stephen Gardner, The Great Reset plans to collapse the dollar. The Davos Forum, Russia and China are fighting each other as each tries to sink the dollar. Gold and silver will help project their wealth. The Forum is infiltrating NATO countries and leaders to ensure that elites stay in power. Russia and China are trying to protect themselves for the coup in the Forum if the Forum succeeds at the same time build BRICS to try to de-dollarize the economy. Andy Shetman believes that gold and silver will be the best protection against inflation. Russia and India announced that they do not need the dollar to trade because they resorted to national currencies to make mutual deals. BRICS International Forum Chairwoman Purmina Anand said on Thursday. West against the rest of the world. Experts from India and South Africa are of the view that the West is trying to exercise its hegemony, a stance that does not satisfy the non-Western countries, which are pursuing their independent policies. Americas. A new caravan of around 1,000 migrants departs from southern Mexico. While the US imposes sanctions on Russia, Mexico increases imports from Russia. The main product they buy is Russian fertilizers. In addition, Mexican companies buy rolled steel, artificial rubber, and aluminum from the Russians. Journalist reported missing in Mexico found murdered. 2 Colombian journalists are shot dead in the department of Magdalena. An explosive is found in the area where President of Colombia is visiting. Petro calls for the great disarmament of armed groups in Colombia. The Cuban government authorizes the sale of foreign currency in a second exchange market. Nicaragua faces a destabilizing campaign ahead of municipal elections. China seeks to reduce US influence in Latin America with 5 trade agreements. Spain. Iberia Express strike leaves 1,500 people without flights. Controversial event in Madrid on cryptocurrencies that confronts investors and financial authorities. Despite the controversy raised several days before and requests to cancel the event, the We Think Center in Madrid was finally the scene this Saturday for the celebration of Mundo Crypto Metaverse Day, an event with more than 7,000 attendees focused on the always controversial digital currencies. Europe. The price of gas in Europe is approaching an all-time high. German politicians call for negotiations with Russia. The petition was signed by several members of the Bundestag, the European Parliament, and the German Länder. Boris Johnson predicts difficult months for the UK with, in quotes, eye-watering bills. Macron announces misery for his population while swimming in plenty. Austrian Chancellor calls for stop the madness in energy markets. Nehammer calls for a European solution to cap electricity prices. European countries cannot cope with current gas prices, says Serbian leader. Russia threatens to double gas prices before the end of the year. Medvedev expects gas prices in Europe to reach 5,000 euros before the end of the year. Russia can afford to leave Europe without gas for more than a year without damaging its own economy, experts say. The increase in the price of gas in Europe means that Moscow could end up to $20 billion per quarter from exports alone. Norway replaces Russia as the European Union's major gas supplier. New threat to European gas market. The height of the hurricane season in North America could become a new threat to Europe's gas market by disrupting the stability of US liquefied natural gas supplies, according to experts from the Center for Energy Development. Lithuania rejects Russian tourism. Hungary will expand its own nuclear power plant with Russian help. 2 meteorologists are fired for announcing rain on Hungary's National Day. Arctic tree hugging championship in Finland. NATO plans massive military build-up after accepting Sweden and Finland. Tension between Greece and Turkey returns after an air incident. USA. The US sends 2 warships to the Formosa Strait and China goes on red alert. China puts its forces on alert for the passage of US ships. China's latest war games are a rehearsal for the planned invasion of Taiwan. A group of Dutch soldiers are shot at outside a hotel in Indianapolis. Washington intends to prolong the conflict in Ukraine. The governor of Texas accelerates busing illegal immigrants to New York. Smugglers abandon children in Arizona's Sonoran Desert. Officials say regional emergency from Midwestern states after an oil refinery had an unplanned shutdown. Shooting in Houston, Texas. At least 4 people were killed and 2 others were injured in a shooting in the city of Houston. Virginia, Washington, and Massachusetts could ban the sale of gasoline-powered cars as California did. A man tries to assault an African-American man without knowing that he is a martial arts fighter. Employees at the Shore store in Lynchburg, Virginia, resign after tiring of their boss' mistreatment. Political interference ahead of 2022 election. Donald Trump accused the FBI and the Justice Department of running political interference ahead of the 2022 midterm elections and possibly the 2024 presidential race. Ukrainian woman posed as a member of the Rothschild family to infiltrate Mar-a-Lago. Russia. Moscow hit beats 1969 record, says local weather service. Western sanctions continue to impede Russian agricultural exports. Russia moved closer to Iran to counter Western sanctions, according to the Wall Street Journal. Russian diamonds return to the world market as sanctions fail. China and Russia develop space weapons that can destroy and disable satellites. Ukraine again shells the town where the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant is located. Russia claims that Ukraine launched 9 shells in one day at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. Russia releases evidence of Ukrainian shelling of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant to United Nations Security Council. Ukraine is going to use underwater drones against Russia. Ukraine uses the doctrine of civil resistance against Russian troops. Tactics range from media campaigns to calls for violence. The US increases arms shipments to Ukraine by sea, according to the Washington Post. Only 30% of the arms shipped to Ukraine have reached the front line. Without air supremacy, Ukraine cannot drive Russia out of the country, according to Larry Johnson. Putin signs decree to give money to Ukrainians who fled the war to Russia. Asia. Deadly monsoon in Pakistan with more than 1,000 killed in floods. Twin 103-meter towers destroyed in India after investigation finds massive building code violations. Curious. Jupiter will approach the minimum distance from Earth for the first time in 12 years. The planet will become the 3rd brightest object in the night sky after the Moon and Venus. On 26 September at 1910 GMT, Greenwich Meridian Time, Jupiter's great opposition will take place. The moment when the orbit of the solar system's largest planet will reach its closest point to Earth. Killer whales are increasing their attacks on ships, and we still don't know why. Man-made structures in Louisiana are twice as old as Egyptian pyramids. First synthetic embryo with a brain and beating heart created. The results of the research could allow researchers to understand why some embryos fail while others end in a healthy pregnancy. Message from the angles. A massive stream of love is flowing into your dimension at this time. The last few years have caused countless people to pray for a much better world. While the divine always sends you a powerful stream of love, it is up to you to decide how much to allow it to enter your reality. Right now, the humankind is asking for more love than ever before, and at the same time is teetering between accepting it and resisting it. And that is why we see so much chaos at this time. That is why some of you feel so much fatigue. As clearly as a rock causes turbulence in a swiftly flowing stream, resisting love also causes turbulence in your lives and in your world. When you flow with the current of love, you feel good. When you don't flow, you feel bad. It's really that simple. You are made of love. When you don't focus on the things that make you feel good, you resist love. It doesn't make you a bad person. It just doesn't give you the most pleasant experience in life. We know there are things and people that trigger your anger, but it's a strong signal to move away from them and turn your attention to what's best and to what you want. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.